morning, everyone. I'm Clara, and my topic is innovation, advancement, or rebellion. Before I begin, there are a couple people I want to thank. First of all, my committee, Miss Nancy McMahon, Miss Clark, Miss Katie Raymer, and Miss Debbie Ford. I don't know where I'd be without them. They have helped me improve my writing immensely. And I would also like to thank my parents for putting up with me waking them up late at night by printing secondary sources at around 11 o'clock and by making coffee at the same time in the kitchen, which is right next to their room. I don't know what I would have done without the support of any of these people or the encouragement I received from my friends. So, like Mr. Herstein said, about a year ago, Ms. Clark came into our AP language class and talked to us about our thesis project, and we all kind of got scared from that point on. She said we needed to make sure that we found some primary sources that we actually liked and a topic that we wouldn't lose interest in so our paper would be better. So I thought about what movies or books that I really liked today. And one of the first ones that came to mind was The Hunger Games. And I'm sure any of y'all actually watch TV. You've seen a commercial for The Hunger Games at least. So you know what it's about, I guess. And what interested me was not only what happened in these stories, but like how the situation got to the point that it did. Of course, I had to work a little bit more on this idea to make it actually a thesis topic. But before I did that, I needed to take some sources that gave me a better idea of what I wanted to write about. So I thought about the books that we had read up to that point, and my favorite book that we had read that year was Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. The topic of cloning used in that book is so fascinating to me, mostly because many similar advancements are being made today. For instance, stem cells can be engineered to replicate human organs, and it's also considered a possibility in the future to have a designer baby where parents can choose their qualities of the child. After I thought about this one, my other primary sources came pretty easily after that. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Lewis Lowry's The Giver, and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. These sources came together with a couple of themes in common, including innovation, rebellion, and oppression. It was around these three common threads that I wrote my thesis. But my fifth primary source didn't come until after I was beginning revisions on my paper as a whole. It was suggested in a meeting that I add The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which we had just read in Ms. Clark's class, and I really liked the book when we read it. So I thought, why not work the weekend and add it in? And I realized that it added a whole new level to my work. So after I settled on the primary sources, it was easier to decide what I was going to prove. Well, at first, my idea was to focus on bioethics of innovation. I realized that advancement comes in more than one form. For example, the structure of society can be changed over time, like in The Handmaid's Tale. Using its legislative power, the government in The Handmaid's Tale institutes new laws that limit the rights of women for the perceived benefit of overall society. And then after that, I thought back to my original inspiration, The Hunger Games. While I didn't use this book in my paper, it made me realize that corruption plays a huge role in the resulting government. So I figured this could be true for my primary sources. With this in mind, I began research on the definitions of corruption and innovation. And after a long writing process, I concluded that while many inventions are created with good intentions, the corrupting force of power combined with the oppression of society or of a group of individuals leads to the destruction of the creator and to the detriment of civilization. I further concluded that the innovation itself is not a destructive force, but it is in fact what humans do with that power that the innovation gives them that eventually warps advancement and turns it into something that harms other people. So I began my paper by examining the motivation for improvement in each society. Naturally, all these books are dystopian novels, except for Frankenstein. And I looked at the innovators behind the advancements. And after a lot of research, I found a lot of sources that stated that the psychological disorder narcissism is common not only in many world leaders, but also in innovators like those in my primaries. And it's because of this psychological predisposition that corruption finds its way into the core of government and civilizations. This corruption creates a need to maintain power and control by any means necessary, which leads to the oppression of the population or of a group of people. people, like in Never Let Me Go and when the clones are used for their organs and not cared for by anyone. This corruption leads to, many people don't exactly react well to being oppressed. Some even rebel against it. It's a shocker, I know. In the cases of Bernard and John in Brave New World, Moira in The Handmaid's Tale, and Jonah in The Giver, this rebellion is either quelled immediately or is ignored and hidden from the rest of society. Corruption drives governments toward immoral actions, which causes these individuals to rebel against these organizations. I'm now going to read an excerpt from my 3rd chapter about the extent to which this corruption goes. I said, power and control both can be critical motivators. In both Brave New World by Aldous Huxley and The Giver by Lois Lowry, the institutions that govern the societies do whatever it takes to maintain control. Both forms of leadership maintain control over their populations through unethical practices such as the use of drugs. In Brave New World, the use of the pleasure drug soma is widely encouraged by the government. This drug sedates the masses and allows people in charge to maintain control. Similarly, in The Giver, all adults are required to take a special pill that effectively controls their sexuality. This, in addition to the numbing of emotions, allows the government to maintain social harmony. In addition, all memories, physical attributes, and abilities are removed from the population and kept by the elders and the giver. The action of changing or attempting to control another human being through drug usage is unethical. The definition of bioethics is a philosophy and law that gives primacy to the individual and emphasizes individual rights, self-determination, and privacy. In The Giver, the use of genetic engineering has eradicated different racial or ethnic groups. Therefore, most people are similar looking. Changing the qualities of a human being without individual consent goes against the law of bioethics because it ignores the individual's own right to choose for him or herself. Because the controlling institutions themselves go against the principles of bioethics and take away individual rights and self-determination, the corrupt natures of both governing bodies is clearly evident. In this passage, I show that the governments in Brave New World and The Giver become so obsessed with maintaining their power and control that they resort to using drugs or genetic manipulation to keep the masses in line. They do this by manipulating biological innovations for their own personal gain. One kind of scary realization I had while writing this chapter was that this sort of manipulation is actually possible with today's technology. People already use mind-numbing drugs by their own free will. And also, like I said earlier, you can make it designer babies. As a topic that is quickly gaining popularity in modern literature today, hopes of apocalyptic societies and the corruption of biological or societal advancements is one that will be relevant for years to come. Writing this paper has taught me so much, not only about my writing, but also myself. I really struggled with procrastination, like Susanna did at first for the first 2 chapters. Were kind of rough. But in the 3rd chapter, I kind of hit my stride and found my true voice, which I could not have done without the help of my committee. Once I did gain traction, my writing improved so much, and I'm so grateful that I made it through this difficult process, and I've learned many valuable lessons about writing on the way. So does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. Clara, similar to Mr. Herstein's question, I learned a lot about the connection between science and literature from your paper. But which of the books do you think, if you had to just pick one, which of them best brings this connection together?
I definitely think that would be Never Let Me Go, because it truly delves into the process of the cloning and what they do with the science that they have gained and how they take advantage of it.
And I don't know that we ever talked about the Hunger Games. Yeah. And I don't know if this says that we're just kind of sick people, because I love those books. And it's based on such a sick premise, but I just love them.
Yeah, they were really good.